Hey everybody, welcome back to the LuckyDog podcast. This is your host, Elias Roush. This podcast is sponsored by EliasRoushMedia.com, photo, video, digital media production. Today we are discussing The Last of Us, Season 1, Episode 3. Long time, directed by Peter Hoare. Written by Craig Mazin. It just dropped last night. I watched it this morning because I was a little bit tired. I figured I wanted to have my full emotions, awakeness, a fresh cup of coffee this morning. I was going to wake up, watch some Last of Us, and go tackle the day. That's not what happened at all. Oh my goodness. I was an absolute wreck after long time, episode 3. I don't think I've been this emotionally moved from a television show since maybe Station 11, which was also HBO apocalyptic type shit. But, with saying that, I had to go to Twitter to go check everything. And yeah, the pulse of everyone is, it seems everyone feels the emotions riding through episode 3. This is kind of a small departure. So for everyone that's still catching up to The Last of Us, hasn't watched it, should you watch it? The first 3 episodes only get better, to the point where I had listened to Decoding TV with David Chen and his other co-host. They said they are honestly somewhat concerned the show is so good at the progression of the episodes getting even better and better. And I kind of agree. This, the first episode was like a roller coaster, just introducing us to the world. The second episode is another whirlwind of, going through the highs and lows of being on the road and losing tests. And we are going to get into spoilers for this episode. Episode 3 is basically a character study departure, similar to what one of my favorite television shows, The Leftovers, like to do. They used to follow like the main A plot line, and then like episode like 5 or 6 it would be a character study episode. And normally these character study episodes are the best episodes in a lot of seasons of television, because we are just with a single character or characters on a path of discovery or kind of just living with them day to day, or slices of lifestyle. So this episode 3, we are with Bill and Frank. And so without going into too many more spoilers, watch the episode. You are going to be moved as hell. I moved feels like an understatement for what this episode is going to do to you. I think this episode is going to single-handedly win awards. This is going to be the episode that the season finale is going to have to match up to. And, I am thoroughly blown away with them being able to pull this kind of emotion out with characters that we were just introduced to. The actors of Bill and Frank, played by the Ron Swanson character and the White Lotus guy, the characters generally known for comedy backgrounds, and Nick Offerman and White Lotus manager actor. Yeah, everyone's looking at Murray Bartlett. Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett turn in some powerhouse performances. I'm talking ones that had me in tears like I was watching Coco. Okay, so there's different levels of emotion when you're watching television. So, some, it was moving. That's like a level 3 or something like that. And then like a level 2, it would, you're just like in the emotions. You feel it. You're kind of weeping off and on within the thing. And then level 1 or DEFCON 1 of the weep is just, you are just blah, just in the fucking puddles. And it felt like this was a combination of level 1 and level 2, because it was waves of emotion. I was like, oh God. I I kind of saw where this episode was going to go within regards of, how this was going to end. I was like, this is probably not going to end very well for someone, or one of them, both of them, I didn't know. But the way that it was executed was so beautiful. It's one of the best pieces of media I've seen, obviously, of 2023. So we're starting off pretty high with the emotionality or the emotional connection of television starting in this year. But again, Station 11 had some very moving parts as well. Kind of comparing the two. But Murray Bartlett, Australian actor from White Lotus season 1, I loved him in that whole season. And seeing him pop up in this, I was looking at him thinking it was Will Forte from like Last Man Standing or something like that. I couldn't exactly tell what was going on, but I was like, is that Murray? Is that the manager from White Lotus? I was so excited. So anyways, we have tons of tweets going on up and down. People CMaxC76 on Twitter says, I was not emotionally prepared for that episode. Quote unquote, he was my purpose. There is multiple lines and pieces of dialogue from this specific episode that are just relentlessly quotable. They are beautiful. Coming up on Valentine's Day, guys, gals, non-binary folks, everybody in between, got the LGBT representation. That's very good for everybody. I gotta say, just some of these lines can be put on a Valentine's Day card. Give it to your significant other. But it was absolutely beautiful, from the strawberry scenes to the. Let me just run down real quick what Peter Hoare has directed with what he's noted for. So basically, I've seen anything from the Doctor Who to, I haven't seen him in Doctor Who, but I've heard of that show, obviously. But he's directed episodes of Daredevil, Runaways, Cloak and Dagger, Defenders, Iron Fist. I'm just not gonna talk about the last one. But anyways, Umbrella Academy, Altered Carbon, Dark Horse Comics. The direction this guy has given is pretty impressive, but I would not have expected it coming from him. And I think he did a documentary on AIDS sometime in the last 15 years, but I don't see that on here. But I don't have time to go through all of. I think it's called "It's a Sin," 2021 debut drama. Yeah. Okay. So, cast and crew and pivotal point of. Okay. So, anyways, check that out. Interesting director. Got a lot of notable stuff. So anyways, what else do we have? The Last of Us episode, season 1, episode 3. Here's the plot. In the present, Joel and Ellie heed Tess's final instructions and hike to meet allies Bill and Frank. On their journey, Joel teaches Ellie about the government's execution for innocence during the early days of the outbreak. In a flashback into 2007, now there's a bunch of visual cues and callbacks that they do throughout the episode, from the flowers being watered to dying to seeing this kind of corpse that is unknown who it belongs to, but then it flashes to a baby. There's a lot of amazing visual storytelling that is just beautiful to watch. I was pretty impressed by that, honestly. So what else do we have? Okay, so it's the flashback. Frank stumbles onto the compound of paranoid survivalist Bill, who takes him in, and the two form a romantic relationship. When this is initially happening, I kind of was like, I don't know if I'm feeling this like dynamic they got going on between each other. At first I was like, are they doing buddy? Are they friendship? What's the deal here? And so as it continued to, unfurl, and that night starts to unwind, they play the piano. Frank cooks for him a little bit. And sorry, Bill cooks for him a little bit, and Frank kind of is helping him, relax, and becoming this survivalist has made Nick Offerman's character so much of a hardened character. You're just like, I don't know about all this. And again, what the fucking. Got to start closing that damn window. Anyways, Frank stumbles onto the compound of paranoid survivalist Bill, and so they form a relationship basically in one night. And I kind of saw where it was going a little bit. Like, I was like, clearly this is gonna happen. This is gonna happen. They're gonna form some sort of bond because of how isolated Bill is and has been for a long time. And you see a montage of him enjoying the quote unquote pandemic, the apocalypse of everybody. He basically goes to Home Depot. You see him readying up Home Alone style and everything. They are basically, he is a survivalist, as if you would see like a doomsday prepper, current doomsday prepper. And so, but because of that, he's become such a hardened guy. And I've seen him kind of play variations of Nick Offerman play variations of this character. I don't remember. It might have been Devs, that he plays kind of this isolated kind of guy, but I don't even know if that was the one that I'm thinking off the top of my head. I can't think of it right off, but there was a performance where he does play kind of like this burly man that happens to be gay, and I feel like this is a variation of that character. And obviously Nick Offerman, phenomenal in all the comedy he's in, but I also think that the shows like Devs, shows like Last of Us, other shows that have demonstrated his ability to have an amazing dramatic, breakout is important as well. It's so interesting to see comedy actors, or generally comedic actors, that play like the deadpan straight man, play drama as well. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So with saying all that, who else do we have on here? They have an amazing relationship, just kind of the slow burn of them forming a relationship on the first night, and Frank being kind of the gentler, more bolder hand that's kind of pushing his way into Bill's life a little bit more. It's beautiful. I knew it was going to happen, that they were going to fall in love, and I knew that I knew one of them was probably going to pass away. I didn't know to what extent. It's almost more sad that they do live a very full life. It's almost more sad than having the characters like suffer by a bite from a clicker or something like that. So what's come to my attention more recently is just letting the characters survive in situations where you wouldn't normally think that they would normally survive, is way more dramatically affecting for the story, and it kind of changes the dynamic of the stories up a lot. So I'm liking to see these characters and a lot of these types of stories more recently than not living from near-death experiences, but it always changes them in some sort of way that changes the story dynamic. And so with saying that, I love all of the scenes of them together. The one that kind of made me feel a little bit weird uneasy just at first, because I thought it was a little bit too forward, was the first initial kiss of from Frank to Bill, and that was just mostly because I didn't feel like it was a natural progression. I just kind of felt like this scene needed to be reworked just a tad bit. I'm sure it worked for many people, and I'm not of LGBT gay community, so I'm trying to say this with the most utmost respect of respecting the community, that I thought that it was a little bit forward for him to kiss Bill, and Bill not have some sort of reaction immediately. But maybe everyone else saw something else I didn't see. I just thought it was a little bit forward. But anyways, that was the only. It wasn't even a nitpick. I just thought it was a forward move. It's just something that if I was writing the story, I wouldn't have been like, and now he kisses him. It just felt like they needed to have a little bit more of a connection, maybe even through the music, because it felt like they were kind of having a connection from just meeting each other, not having too much, just meeting each other as men, and then kind of realizing they are gay men, and then realizing, oh, Survivalist Bill is not only, he's a badass around. He has this whole little community to himself, fences and all. But he's got great taste in fine dining. He knows how to cook. He's got great wine. He's he's probably a funny dude. So I wanted the commonalities to come together a little bit more, but that was just me. So anyways, the relationship starts to form more, and as they are forming, I'm feeling it. I'm like, oh Lord, this is gonna be gut wrenching here when I'm thinking when a clicker shows up. That never happens. So they form a romantic relationship. Several years later, Frank contacts Tess over the radio, and the couples enter a tenuous friendship, not relationship, tenuous friendship. And I love it because it feels like, two fractions. Two of them really want to meet. Two of them are very opposite of each other, being Joel and Bill. And you have some amazing dialogue between these characters. I don't feel like I need to reiterate too much of it. And getting Tess back in a Torv on screen, I was like, cha-ching, that's what I'm talking about. And they also are doing a lot of de-aging with these characters, because we've seen Joel and Tess also age out of that because this is back in 2007. So let's see. In the present, Frank is crippled by a degenerative illness and asks Bill to euthanize him after they marry. But Bill, not wanting to live without Frank, also kills himself. So this was one of the most gut-wrenching things I've seen in media in about 3 or 4 months. I've seen some pretty incredible stuff, not gonna lie, because it's Oscar season. But the acting, chef's kiss, it was so beautiful. It felt like, I guess you'd say, Romeo and Juliet, Shakespearean type style of these deaths. And this is all from a storyline that I believe is just like 1 or 2 lines in the game. Now, again, I don't know the game too much in comparison to the show. This is by podcast only knowledge. But from what I hear, they've expanded the story to be absolutely one of the most beautiful pieces of storytelling I've seen in a very long time. And obviously, it's got to be the best adaptation that anyone has done of any sort of game, on top of it being a video game. So just the scene of them talking, I mean, all of the tweets, I think people agree, this was simultaneously the saddest and most beautiful episode of The Last of Us. Etta Libre, Adrian at Adriance said, "What an episode! Tears everywhere." Emoji. Alice the Nerd on Twitter says, "I did not expect a show about mushroom zombies to make me feel so emotional. Episode 3 is heartbreaking." And I concur with everything. I mean, it's just on every level, this is just not what I was expecting emotionally from the show, but it's delivering on every single level. And at one point, you do see throughout the time of, I think it's 16 years that we go across with Bill and Frank. Bill is shot by some, raiders trying to raid the village, and you think he's gonna he's put on the damn table, and Frank is like, "Oh, you can't die. He's patching him up and everything, and you're like, "Oh fuck, Nick Offerman's done. Bill's dead. Bill, it's gonna be Frank only." And then it flashes forward. We have a wide shot. There's a man in a wheelchair, and you hear someone calling Bill, Frank, and Bill. Frank is calling for Bill, and you're like, oh my gosh. You're like, a couple things. One, Bill lived. Two, Frank and Bill are old. Three, Frank has some sort of degenerative disease that is causing him to lose, a function of his body. And you're just, I was overcome with emotion at that point. Once you see Frank in the wheelchair, all I had was my father had pancreatic cancer, so basically he was in a wheelchair the last 3 months of his life, and the tears were flowing. I felt like from any direction that if you came at this, whether you were looking at them like, oh, that reminds me of my grandfather, or oh, that reminds me of my dad, or oh, that reminds me of someone I care about from a relationship previously before, whatever. If you watch this and you just attach some sort of emotional relationship to these characters, you felt it, and the tears were flowing. I mean, you didn't have to have a father that died from pancreatic cancer for you to feel this type of emotion. But when he's in that, I'm like, oh no. And I just felt like my guard was a little bit up to knowing that someone here is not going to live. This show is too damn sad, somber at the beginning. I was thinking for them both to live. So the whole time I'm thinking something terrible is going to happen. Zombies going to get them. Raiders going to get them. Whatever. Clicker's going to get them. I don't know. Something terrible is going to happen. This is not the something terrible I thought that was going to happen. They live their life out, and it's the most saddest thing I've seen in a very long time. Since like Station 11, I feel like I haven't gone through such a journey, an emotional journey since then. So yeah, when this happens, they have several scenes together where Bill is just, really distraught about all of this happening. And then let me see, Frank, they spend the day together. He says, can we have one of the last best days of my life ever? And there's just so much emotion coming from him. And, even talking about it, it's kind of hard for me to like keep all the tears and from coming back. I'm trying not to right now. I'm trying to be like, stick to the script. The script's good. It wasn't initially when he said that he wanted him to die, or he wanted him to, pour his pills into his wine, which I didn't know he was always just going to kill him. I thought he was going to shoot him. So putting the pills in the wine was way more of a less graphic way of doing it and violent. And having this happen, and you're seeing the emotion on Nick Offerman's face, as Bill's face, and it's just so it's harrowing to watch. It's hard. It's a difficult one, and it's almost a good enough episode. I feel like I could just recommend this episode single-handedly to I want my mother to watch this one, even though she's not a big apocalyptic violence or anything kind of individual. She doesn't like horror or anything. Like, I wouldn't even categorize this as barely a thriller in this episode. This is a character study with these two individuals who become such rich characters, and I was here for it. I was very distressed. I was very distraught after I was not distressed. I was distraught after the episode. But I was not ready for this. And then them going through, when they start, pushing Frank in the wheelchair past the flowers. The tears were flowing. I'm thinking about putting on my Patreon. I happened to have the camera rolling of my reaction of the last 30 minutes of this episode, and I'm thinking about putting it on my Patreon. If we get enough up clicks and maybe comments on this YouTube video, I'll put it on my Patreon for everyone to see my reaction of me just literally upset as fuck during that entire scene. But it's a little bit embarrassing because I'm just ugly crying the entire time. But we'll see if we can break like 1,000 views or something like that on this in the first week. It's got to be within the first week though. So check out at LuckyDog Podcast or LuckyDog Podcast and all this links and everything. But anyways, I was not emotionally ready for this at all. And so when they are just going through the montage of them having the best day ever, them doing the last dinner, and and Nick Offerman comes to the table, I just look at him and I'm like, holy fuck, Nick Offerman's gonna fucking he's gonna kill himself in this. And I didn't know if like again, I didn't know if he was gonna shoot himself or if he was gonna do some sort of pill method or poison. And so they end up both just taking the tranquilizers from the wine, and it kills himself as well. And I love how we don't see too much graphic nature of them at all in any nature, and it feels like we get enough insight of to that hey, they are having sex, they are having a physical relationship, but that doesn't mean I want to see their head get blown up at the end of this fucking episode. Or by a bomb or a gun or someone getting shot, or I didn't want any of that to happen in this. I wanted the best for these characters, and it's almost kind of best case scenario that they get to die in this way on their own terms. And so there's something kind of powerful about that. And so it flashes forward. I think this is still pretty close. They kill themselves pretty close to, they do the dual suicide or euthanasia, euthanizing of they have to have died kind of recently because the food still looks pretty fresh on the table. It doesn't have too much mold and whatnot, so they had to have been just a little bit late. Joel and Ellie arriving sometime later. They discover a letter Bill left for Joel where he tells him that protecting Frank is what gave him his life, meaning after the outbreak. Bill left Joel his truck and supply of weapons. Joel takes the truck to find Tommy, and Ellie joins him. And again, there's multiple levels to this. Let me just quick off the cuff before we forget. Ellie seems to be a little bit indulgent in just messing with these zombies. I think it's going to get us and get her in some trouble. Maybe Joel later. I don't know too much about the second season at all that has been renewed actually, but I feel like we're probably on the path to having something not great happen to Joel. I'm not sure if it's going to happen at the end of this season or if it's going to happen next season. I just feel like he's not a character that is longing for this world. And right now, they have a great connection. I'm not sure if it's a Bill and Frank connection yet. So I'm ready for them to kind of have a little bit more of a closer connection because they're still kind of butting heads in a way. And them having and establishing that Tess and Joel were some sort of kind of an item, but off-screen item, makes it feel like I am interested in knowing their more of their history and stuff like that. Same thing with what Tess and Joel actually had going on. And so, yeah, and also Ellie, finding that one clicker at the bottom or the zombie kind of cutting them up a little bit, and kind of I couldn't tell what she was doing, whether she was just kind of being sadistic or if she was being like curious about, does this thing have life? Does this thing still have like a brain in it? And so what is the song after Last of Us? So almost every song. Okay, so the Linda Ronstadt song is the song that they were actually singing on the piano, and Frank was, I think, or Bill was, and it's the song that they play at the very end of when they hop in the truck and they leave, and the camera pulls out, and it's from the window of Bill and Frank. It's just so much excellent cinematography and direction. Like I said, that every little detail of this episode feels so specific that I can't even name it all. So we got the Linda Ronstadt. And I think I'm going to love you for a long, long time. I think that, it's, let me see. From the very first episode, just because it's a post-apocalyptic show in which society has been stripped from its bare bones, feral bones, doesn't mean The Last of Us can't also feature the finer things in life. We've been seeing a lot of 80s music that has been peppered in and discussed through these last 3 weeks. Even Ellie brings it up. I believe it's in the first week. So music, for instance, this is on Mashable.com. From the first episode, Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann's HBO adaptation of the Naughty Dog game uses music in a key way, which dispatchy modes Never Let Me Down Again, setting an anonymous tone for what lies ahead. Episode 3 closes this musical loop with the love story of Bill and Frank and uses another key song, Linda Ronstadt's Grammy-nominated 1970s ballad, Long, Long Time, from her album Silk Purse. And in fact, the episode is even named for the song. And so, it's a great song to use, kind of merging the two. I wanted them to kind of play music together, but maybe that was just me. But yeah, I thought that this episode was astounding. It's going to win awards. Both these actors, give them the awards. You know what to do. Like, subscribe. Let me know what you thought about episode 3 of The Last of Us. This has been a phenomenal 3 weeks of television. I cannot wait to see what the next few weeks have in store. Sometimes a lot of television can't compete in that middle sector of the season. So I hope that The Last of Us continues to deliver on these next few, especially with how good the previous few episodes have been. Very, very good. Let me just kind of go through a couple of more tweets everyone was discussing. Let's see. This episode was a bit of a tearjerker. This was Annette XX on Twitter. Let's see what we got. Bill and Frank's story. Wow, just wow. Yep, I'm right there with that's Gypsy King 007. Let me see anything else. Long, long time. It's the boys meme of Homelander, Sam. Perfection. Yeah, I'm right there with them. Let me know what you thought about this episode. Subscribe, like, you know what to do. LuckyDog Podcast. Again, Deidre MC gave us 5 stars on iTunes. I appreciate you immensely. I cannot thank you enough. Be like Deidre. Be a good LuckyDog individual listener. You know what to do. 5 stars, iTunes. Take it easy.